pasta and Parmesan cheese, steak and red wine, pizza and pie. You get the point. Nothing beats a perfect combination. Some things in life are meant to be together, and I'm not talking solely about food either. What would Greece be without sunshine? Roger Sterling without vodka, and Zaya without Rakan. Just lesser versions of themselves. The key for a perfect combination is that both parties need to boost each other's strengths and supplement each other's weaknesses. This is true in every aspect of life, but it becomes even more apparent in sports and basketball in particular. NBA's history is littered with great two-man partnerships, and this upcoming season is no exception. The league is full of talented duos, some established, who are going to try to compete for a championship, and some up-and-coming, who will try to make their mark. Memphis's Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. belong in the latter category, and what a better time for them to develop as players and create some buzz around them. After a series of future-minded moves by team general manager Zachary Kleiman during the off-season, the two young Grizzlies have emerged as the focal point of the squad more than ever before. Hence, it comes to no surprise that both of them were voted as likely to have a breakout season in the annual GM survey. So today, we're gonna talk about the partnership of Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson, analyzing their respective strengths, and discuss whether Memphis has enough to make the playoffs.
I had someone who is a very, very smart guy, NBA executive, for another team. He said, if you told me this kid is going to be the best player out of this draft class in 5 years, it would not shock me.
Jackson started his NBA career playing mainly the 4, while in his second and third season he transitioned into the center spot. As such, he has grown into a versatile big with skills to excel in both positions. Let's start with his outside presence. Thanks to the emphasis coaches put on proper spacing nowadays, more than ever before the league's big men have been asked to take and make more three-pointers. Nikola Vucevic along with Karl Anthony Towns are the most notable examples of this, taking more than 6 threes a game last season and shooting it at a guard level efficiency. Jaren Jackson is also an excellent three-point shooter. In 2020, he shot 39% on 6.5 attempts per game. And this season, it looks like these numbers will get even better. Why? Well, in the preseason, he only shot a casual 48% on 7.3s a game, the second highest percentage out of every player who shot 7 threes per game or more. Otherworldly numbers that make Jaren a more than dependable stretch 4 or stretch 5, allowing Memphis to play 5 out and opening up driving lanes to the basket. But as much as today's big men are asked to have an outside game, the paint is still the area where they earn their dollars. This is where Jackson's athleticism and long wingspan come into play, making him an ideal target for his guards to pass to. He's also a monster at pounding the offensive glass after a miss for some easy second chance points. His physical gifts can also be seen on the defensive end, especially his help defense in the post when combined with a traditional defensive anchor like Steven Adams. Jaren can also be the key when Memphis is defending against small ball lineups. His length forces the opposing fives into taking tough shots inside the paint and allows Jackson to close out on them when they spot up on the perimeter. The 2019-2020 season was when Jaren really showcased his potential as an interior defender, ranking 11th in blocked shots, 8th in contested shots, and forcing players he was guarding to shoot 6.3% worse in the paint than what they normally do. The biggest worry about Jackson is his availability. In the 3 years of his professional career, he has missed more than 100 games due to injury, and last season he was featured by the Grizzlies only 11 times. When he is healthy, Jackson Jr. is prone to committing unnecessary fouls which also harm his playing time. Back in 2020, he led the whole league in fouls per game with 4.1. But as he works on his body and gets more mature as a player, these numbers will certainly go down. Over the summer, Jaren put in the work, looking healthy and ready to go in the preseason. With him on the court, the Grizzlies outscored their opponents by 32 points per 100 possessions. For all these reasons, he was offered a 4-year, $105 million contract, removing any unnecessary uncertainty about his future. I'm looking at you, Robert Sarver. Jaren Jackson Jr. might not be a superstar yet, but he is a dynamic two-way player every championship contender needs, and as such, the Grizzlies are very lucky to have him for the foreseeable future.
Will history, Stephen A. Smith, show that Ja Morant should have been the #1 pick in that draft?
I believe it will. I believe it will. I really feel that way. First of all, I think Ja Morant is elevating his stature to superstar status.
Speaking of superstars, let's talk about Memphis' own, Ja Morant. Getting drafted 2nd overall right behind the generational talent that is Zion Williamson could have very well taken the spotlight away from Ja. However, by comparing the two players' careers so far, that notion couldn't be farther away from the truth. After all, Morant was the Rookie of the Year in 2020, and while Zion and the Pelicans were fighting mediocrity last season, Ja was carrying the Grizzlies in the playoffs, averaging 30 points and 8 assists in the postseason. Needless to say, Ja Morant is the focal point of Memphis' offense, which especially relies on his shot creation ability. What Morant is elite at is creating some sunshine when there is only darkness. In basketball terms, this translates to turning a bad offense into a bucket. Usually, this takes the form of a drive to the basket, and when it does, you don't want to get in his way. Ja averaged the 4th most drives per game last season, with the key to his success being his ambidexterity. He can finish just as effortlessly with his right and his left hand, which makes him unpredictable and frankly, sometimes unstoppable. And this year, with Jaren spreading the floor, his efficiency at driving to the rim will get even better. This works both ways too. With Ja Morant scoring more and more efficiently in the paint, he will have a black hole effect, attracting help defenders and freeing up his teammates for more open looks from the perimeter, which brings me to Ja Morant's best attribute, his passing. See, even though he is utilized primarily as a scorer in the Grizzlies offense, there is an argument to be made that he is even more impressive as a facilitator. Let me explain. Ja Morant has a very sharp vision, being able to spot open cutters and spot-up shooters alike. Last year, he ranked 10th in assists per game and was also able to set up his teammates for some assists of their own. Ja averaged the 2nd most secondary assists per game, which further highlights his willingness to share the basketball. While usually players who lead the league in assists also lead it in turnovers, Morant possesses both maturity and a very high basketball IQ for his age. As such, he finished the year with a lower turnover ratio than many other elite passers. What's keeping Ja from being an All-NBA caliber point guard is his 3-point shooting and his defense. Let's start with the latter. As explosive as Ja Morant is on the offensive end, his lateral quickness still needs work. Quite often, opposing guards leave him behind in the dust. This, combined with his inability to fight over screens, can make him a liability when defending certain matchups. As for his shooting, last season he shot 30% from deep, the 4th worst percentage among all players who attempted at least 200 3-pointers. Even in the preseason he seemed hesitant to pull up from 3, and even when he did, he wasn't effective. However, Memphis is the perfect situation for Ja. Not only he gets to compete for a playoff spot, but also grow and improve as a player along with the rest of Memphis' young core. So even if he doesn't fix his outside shot this season, I expect his improvement in other areas to be so significant that it earns him a spot at the All-Star game. The recipe for the Grizzlies making the playoffs is simple. Try to replicate what worked last year. Ever since Taylor Jenkins took over the head coaching job back in 2019, the Grizzlies pride themselves as being a hard-nosed, defensive-minded team. Call them Grit and Grind 2.0, and Coach Jenkins has done an excellent job at establishing this identity. Last season, they were the 6th best defensive team in the league and were tied for 1st in steals. And you know what they say, good defense leads to easy offense. As such, the Grizzlies led the league in both fast break points and points in the paint. Added to their defensive prowess, they remain one of, if not the deepest team in the NBA, full of pieces that fit perfectly around the Ja Morant-Jaren Jackson partnership. In the backcourt, Memphis has DeAnthony Melton, a two-way backup point guard who is also a huge threat from the outside, and Desmond Bane, the epitome of a sharp-shooting two-guard who last year led the Grizz in 3-point percentage. At the forward positions, first up is Dillon Brooks. Dillon is as effective scoring the basketball as getting to the opponent's heads, a real pest to play against. Next up is Brandon Clark. When Clark has been aggressive, he has shown flashes of brilliance, being an extremely athletic power forward who excels in the pick and roll. The newest addition to Memphis' rotation is their rookie, Zaire Williams. What impressed me the most about him during the preseason was his ball handling and shot creation ability. Lastly, at the center position, there is the big Kiwi himself, Steven Adams. In his career, Adams has established himself as one of the best screen setters and offensive rebounders in the game. What people fail to mention, however, is his criminally underrated passing ability off the post. But as good as Memphis is, they got some stiff competition for the lower playoff seats in the West. While the top 4 of the Western Conference seems to be a lock, places 5 through 10 are completely unpredictable, with many of the contending teams having one or multiple question marks. How will Jason Kidd turn out in Dallas? Do the Warriors have enough depth coming off their bench? Will the Blazers be as bad defensively as last year? Will Kawhi return to the Clippers this season? In this environment of uncertainty, Memphis seems to be the most safe bet. But even with Jaren Jackson returning and the expected improvement from the young guys getting more playing time, I can't see them avoiding the play-in tournament. And that's okay, no reason to panic, especially for the second youngest team in the league. Ownership and general manager Zachary Kleiman have decided not to rush anything. Instead, they intend to develop their young players organically, and only when Ja and Jaren realize their huge potential, package some of their assets for a blockbuster trade. To win in basketball, your organization needs to be outstanding from top to bottom, and Memphis definitely got what it takes to be champions.